great saphenous running up this inside of this person's thigh. Okay, nerves. When Dr. Fernandez did the pro-section of the upper extremity, he could show you the brachial plexus, and you saw it and all the branches coming and going. Unfortunately, the nerves that are going into, main nerves going to the lower extremity, come from the lumbar plexus, which you've seen parts of before when we did the lower part of the posterior abdominal wall. But a lot of it comes out of the sacral region down in the pelvis, which we did not dissect, and even when you dissect it down there, you don't really see much of what's going on. But realize that there are the major nerves going to the lower extremity come out of the lumbar and sacral plexus, or what's often called the lumbosacral plexus, because part of the stuff, the sacral plexus actually has some lumbar components from L4 and L5. There are 4 major nerves, which you should know. The femoral nerve, which many of you probably saw in the posterior abdominal section, and then the obturator nerve, which if you dug down beneath psoas, you saw the obturator nerve. Coming out of the back of the pelvic region are a bunch of little bitty nerves, superior and inferior gluteal nerves to individual muscles, and then this giant monster, the largest nerve in the body, known as the sciatic nerve. And you can see that in the prosection. The sciatic nerve is a combination, actually, of 2 separate nerves, which will eventually split. One known as the tibial nerve, and we'll talk about in a minute what it does, and the other one, this is an old slide, known as the common peroneal nerve. Current textbooks will often call that the fibular nerve. You get away from Latin and into the word that, and the bone's the fibula. So, if you see peroneal, think fibular. Depending upon how old the books and the sectors you're looking at, they may use either term or one in parentheses. Okay? So, if you, I've dissected out the gluteal region. You can't miss this thing. It's the size of my thumb. And it does a huge hunk of the lower extremity, particularly on the back. Let's see where these things go and what they do. Okay. So here is this femoral nerve. So it comes from L2, 3, and 4. Innervates a little bit of psoas major, which we saw in the posterior abdominal wall. Iliacus, a muscle up here in the ilium. A little muscle called pectineus. And then all these big muscles that you find on the front of your thigh. There are 4 of them. Okay, rectus femoris, vastus medialis, vastus lateralis, and vastus intermedius. They are called the quadriceps. Remember, in the arm you had these 3 muscles on the back called the triceps. In the leg you got these 4 big muscles on the front of your thigh, known as the quadriceps muscle. And here they are. Okay. So this is the lateral to medial. So there's rectus femoris, the straight one coming down the middle going from the pelvis down to the patella, the kneecap. There's a vastus lateralis out here on the side, vastus medialis over here on this side, and deep to rectus femoris coming off of the shaft of the bone is vastus intermedius. And these are the muscles that all go into the patella, and they're responsible for extending your knee. Okay, so if you're a soccer player, you've worked a lot with your quadriceps muscle. There's another little muscle that zooms across the side known as sartorius and has a very complicated motion I won't bother you with. But realize the bulk of the stuff on the front of your thigh is the quadriceps muscles. And here you can see is the external iliac artery. Once it crosses into the front of the thigh, it's the femoral artery. There's the femoral nerve and the femoral vein. So that great saphenous is going to come up here and dump into the femoral vein there. Okay, that other nerve, which you actually again saw when we dissected the posterior abdominal wall down here, it was under psoas major, is the obturator nerve. And it comes down, travels through the pelvis, pops out this opening down here, known as the obturator foramen, and supplies, for the most part, mostly all these muscles on the inside of the thigh, okay, which are adductors. These muscles on the inside of the thigh enable you to move your leg towards the midline, adducting the leg, and they are all innervated by basically the obturator nerve. And then it picks up another little muscle in here called gracilis, which is not on our prosection because the surgeon took it away for some reason. Okay, so here's our quadriceps again, and here are these obturator, these nerves, muscles innervated by the obturator nerve, the adductors. So when they contract, they're going to move the thigh towards the midline and also extend it a bit. Okay, flipping to the back. This is the gluteal region. Okay, this person has had, this is the huge, your big buttocks muscle, gluteus maximus. It's been flipped away. It's been, okay, it's been rotated out here laterally. Here's the midline, here's your sacrum. So it's been cut away and flipped to the side. Obviously it's a huge muscle. And then there are all these little bitty muscles, okay, coming from basically parts of the sacrum, parts of the ilium, parts of the ischium, and going into various bumps and knobs and grooves in the upper part of the femur. Okay? Here's the key. This is a little bitty muscle known as the piriformis muscle. Okay, it comes from inside the sacrum, okay, and goes into the upper part of the femur. Coming out below that piriformis muscle is that sciatic nerve, that largest nerve in the body. Okay, down below, behind this nerve are three little bitty muscles. One not so little bitty, obturator internus, which is coming from the inside of the pelvis, and then a pair of twins that join with it, the gemelli, the superior and inferior gemelli, and they attach to the tendon of obturator internus and then go into the upper part of the femur. Another little muscle here, quadratus femoris, the square muscle, which you can see in the prosection. So most of these muscles, and then up here, beneath gluteus medius, gluteus maximus, you get gluteus maximus out of the way, there are two muscles coming off of the iliac bone on the outside here. Gluteus medius, more superficial, and if you reflect gluteus medius underneath is a muscle called gluteus minimus. These are very important muscles because what they do is they abduct. So the adductors adduct, these muscles abduct. Now you might think that when you're walking, you don't really, unless you're German, you don't walk by abducting. The problem is, if you walk, you have to lift up one leg to put it down in front. So about half the time or more that you're walking, you're actually standing on one leg. And when you're standing on one leg, your center of gravity is right here. You want to collapse this way. The muscles that keep you from collapsing when you stand on one leg, when you're walking, are these adductors that are going from right here into the outside of your thigh, and they're going to straighten you up like that. So every time you raise one leg, these adductors fire. These adductors fire. These adductors fire. People who have paralysis of those things have to walk sort of funny, so they have to make sure that their center of gravity is over the leg. So they have to walk like that. Because otherwise, if they try to stand straight, they would collapse like that. So they're balancing over this leg and balancing that. Okay. So it's very busy down here at the back, particularly this big muscle coming out. But you'll notice, whereas there's a giant muscle coming down. Come in. Whereas this giant nerve coming down the back, there's no giant arteries back here, right? Because it's a big artery going to the lower extremity is that femoral coming out the front, which then flips to the back in the, at the knee joint. So this is your sciatic, which later down is going to split. Okay. So these two are abductors. These are sort of mainly rotating the femur relative to the pelvis. This bump here is that ischiotuberosity. Okay. Coming off of it are your hamstring muscles. Okay. So there's 3 or 4 hamstrings, depending upon how you count it, which we'll see a better slide of later. But realize they're up here in this gluteal region as well, coming off the ischiotuberosity, going down to the knee joint. Okay. So, as I said, the sciatic nerve is basically a conglomerate. It's one, you see it coming out of the buttocks, and it's one big thing, but in fact it has 2 separate parts. So the part that's dealing with stuff on the lateral side of the leg, on the fibular side of the leg, basically, is called the common peroneal or common fibular nerve. It's half of the sciatic. And it doesn't do much, just one little bitty muscle in the thigh. But then when it gets down into the leg region, what we call the leg, or where the calf is, tibia fibula, it does a series of muscles coming off on the fibular side. Okay, called peroneus longus and peroneus brevis, or fibularis longus and fibularis brevis. Okay, and then it comes on to the front of the leg. Okay, and it does the digital extensors and the big toe extensors, and then it does some digital extensors that you have, short digital extensors that you have on top of the foot. You remember there's nothing on the top of the hand, but on the foot you do have some little digital extensors up in there. So it's basically responsible for stuff that extends up here, extends the ankle, and extends the digits. That's the fibular part of the sciatic nerve. Okay, and here's what these guys sort of look like. So here's the extensor digitorum, long digital extensor, fibularis or peroneus longus, peroneus brevis, and then the short digital extensors down here. So all this stuff down here and on top of the foot is from the peroneal nerve, or fibular nerve. Okay, the other half, the big half of the sciatic nerve, okay, is known as the tibial nerve. Right? It's named after the little bone, the larger but small bone in the leg on the medial side. So, as the sciatic comes out the back here, all these hamstrings are innervated by the tibial nerve. So it goes down behind the kneecap. All these big calf muscles that we'll see in a minute are innervated by the tibial nerve. All these toe flexors are innervated by the tibial nerve. And then when you go into the foot, all the stuff on the sole of the foot is innervated by the tibial nerve. Okay, it branches into medial and lateral parts, but it's all tibial nerve. Okay, so here we are. There's our piriformis muscle again, gluteus medius, gemelli, obturator internus, quadratus femoris. Here are these hamstrings. There's one, they often come off sort of stuck together up here. The one on the lateral side is called biceps femoris, and it goes down and inserts basically on the head of the fibula. So all these hamstrings, they run along the back of the thigh. They basically extend the thigh. Right? The quadriceps move the knee this way. The hamstrings move the thigh backwards, and they also cross at the knee. Many of them cross at the knee, so they can also flex the knee. Okay, so the one going to the lateral side, okay, is biceps femoris, And the fact that it's called bicep should be a clue. The largest part, the bulk of it, comes from this ischiotuberosity, but coming in from the back side, coming off the shaft of the femur, is a short head of biceps. And that's what they show here. Another part coming in, and it goes on the head of the fibula. Just medial to that is a muscle called semitendinosus, and it goes down behind the knee joint, so it can flex the knee, and goes down onto the medial side of the tibia. And it has a complex insertion along with this gracilis, one of these adductor muscles, and the sartorius I showed you wrapping around, and it has a fancy insertion down here known as the goose's foot. Attached to much of semitendinosus is another muscle called semimembranosus, and it also comes along the back side of the knee on the medial side and goes into the upper part of the tibia. So this area back here is called the popliteal fossa. It's the sort of the back side of the knee, similar to the cubital fossa, remember, that we saw on the upper extremity. Okay, as you move, okay, so on the other side, here's the upper end of the popliteal fossa, and there's biceps femoris on the lateral side, and semitendinosus and semimembranosus here on the medial side. When you get to the calf, there are three big muscles here. Coming from the lower part of the femora, just above the femoral condyles, is this two-headed muscle known as the gastrocnemius. And it's the big muscle on the outside of your calf. Okay, one comes from just above the lateral condyle, one comes just above the medial condyle. They join together to form this giant tendon, which is known as the Achilles tendon. Deep to the gastrocnemius is a big, flat, flounder-looking muscle that's on the back of the calf, known as the soleus muscle. And these three muscles are referred to as the triceps suri, the triceps of the calf, the three muscles of the calf. And what they basically do is they insert on the back of the heel here, and that's what enables you to stand up on your toes. They raise the heel. There's some